Hey guys, Tbull here. Today we got a game in the Lion for you. Tier 7 British battleship Nelson anti-air build here on the commander build and on the ship build. Pretty strong setup when we set it up like this. We got a carrier in this game, but either he knows about the strength of the Lion in terms of its ability to counter the planes, or we just get lucky or unlucky depending on how you look at it. But we won't really get to see that in action. I've been playing the ship a little bit though because I do want to see some carrier shredding action out of this thing. But I want to highlight this game. It's a capture the base mode game, and it's a shatter, obviously. But we're talking about battleship play, so we're talking about positioning. Pretty much the entire point of this game is putting various pieces around the map in good positions to have success, right? Battleships, it's critically important. Basically, when we're playing battleships, positioning is more or less what we're trying to uh, focus on, right? That's the main idea behind the battleships. If you're in the right spot to punish movements or, you know, positioning of the enemy's team, then of course you're going to have a good scoring game. If you're out of range or if you're blocked, you don't have lanes to cover, then you're going to have a poor scoring game. You're not going to be doing any damage, right? Battleships, we're not going to be capturing as many bases. Once in a while you can. We're not going to be, adding to the game in the ways that the destroyers and cruisers can. But what we do have is the spike damage, the ability to wreck a player's game or even end it immediately at any given time. But if we're in a good position to do so, the odds of that happening go up. That's the basic idea behind battleships. Here we are on the western side of this map. Now, ideally, we'd like to have some spotting here. We do have the destroyer. You can see right on the right-hand side of the screen there. He's creeping through the middle. He's also got the planes flying around by him. He's actually probably spotted by them briefly. I think they just got shot down there by the destroyer. So he's got to be careful. But this is kind of what we want him to do. We want him to go out there and spot for us. You can see we have this big island blocking us and the bulk of the force. Ideally, we'd like to shoot damage or shoot shots and get damage for free, i.e. not take return shots. But if we're going to take return shots, which is the norm, especially with battleships, then we want to limit how many ships can shoot at us at one given time. So we can use this cover very well here. We can cover basically most of the western side of the map, and then we have a small little lane directly in front of the ship off screen into the middle. Those are our firing lanes in this setup. So we got very good coverage of the west. Just need this Jutland to not sit in the smoke. He's asking for spotting. Sorry, man, you are the spotting. Let's get the rolls resolved here. But theoretically, if he's out there spotting, he doesn't even need to do anything. He can launch torps once in a while. Destroyers capture the base mode game. You're basically spotting is the main thing you're trying to do and kill the enemy spotters, the destroyers. So overall, we got a pretty decent setup here to start. Now, unfortunately, the Jutland is going to perish relatively soon. And then we're going to see, okay, what do we do here? Now, one of the reasons I wanted to highlight this game is, again, we are focusing on positioning this game, but it's kind of counterintuitive that we'd be talking about it because more or less we're going to be sitting in this position for the majority of the match. Okay, so that's all right. We're roughly sitting in our spawn here. That's a play that you can usually criticize, but during this game, we're going to be firing more or less on reload throughout the game, right? As a battleship, we can be shooting more or less when the guns are loaded, put out some more damage. That's an efficient use of our weapon systems, and that means we're in a pretty good effective position. So I want to always point that out, like, you don't have to get into a flanky position as a battleship, okay? Some of them are designed to do that, particularly the faster moving ones, French battleships or ships like that, but you can be in a good, effective, more or less stationary position as long as you have targets to shoot. Jutland moving in here. He's got an Edinburgh and the battleship, I think it's a German battleship, rushing him. He needs to get back. You do not rush Edinburghs or any British light cruisers as a destroyer. That's kind of a faux pas 101. He's also got the Hayate, which is a pretty effective shooting Japanese destroyer on that side as well. So he was not going to last long there. He would have probably would recognize the threats if he was less in the smoke. I understand wanting to use the smoke as the British destroyers, but you need to understand that if your team isn't spotting for you, then you by default resort into the spotter for the team until you can establish by utilizing your teammates' positioning them as a spotter for you. Then you can go ahead and use the smoke effectively. So, tried to keep him alive, tried to kill the Edinburgh with a one shot, had one decent shot, had some overpens on the follow-up, and, you know, it is what it is. Obviously, if the destroyer's making a play that you're like, okay, you're going to get yourself killed, you still want to try and keep them alive, right? If you can bail them out, that's still an important asset on the team. Nevertheless, he is down here. Now we're in an interesting situation here. We have the Amalfi who snuck by there, and he wasn't really shooting. He was using his great concealment to get by until he got nearly under cover. Then he shot. We do have the destroyer as well. We're not currently being spotted, so we know they're not in that little gap between the Amalfi and the other ships to the north that are unspotted. But we do need to be... It's going to add a little bit of a wrinkle when we're trying to figure out, all right, who's spotting us, right? Because the Amalfi could technically pop out from beyond that island. As long as it doesn't shoot, he can spot without being spotted in return. And the destroyer. Of course, we don't want to be getting smacked by the destroyer, so we're going to periodically move forward here a little bit and trying to cut off torpedo strikes. So you can see one there. He launched it, but because we'd moved forward about 10 meters, 100 meters, whatever the hell it is, he didn't have the angle anymore. Are getting spotted here and are getting golden shower. Now, this is a common complaint with Battleship players in the comments. I always read you guys' comments on every video, and anytime I'm critical of Will to Rebuild or anything like that, people are always saying, well, come on, man, the HE spam. What are you doing to do it or counter it, right? If we got shots at these cruisers, if we got shots at the spotters, take them out. If we are getting slammed like that, we're moving forward here, right? The guy was lobbing shots just over the edge of the island, and shots in the Amalfi there. Ooh, vicious strike there. Finally, he turned away, and that provided enough of a thickness of his armor to actually arm the shells. And then finally, we got a pretty damn near close to a devastating strike. But a vicious shot nevertheless. But protecting ourselves, right? We moved forward, trying to drop the spot. There we do it again. Or actually, he dropped it on himself by popping the smoke. Fair enough. But by moving forward, we also cut off that cruiser's ability to lob over the island. So take the matters into your own hands. There's no one going to come save you in this game unless you're in a division and you're coordinating with someone. Generally, your teammates are going to be completely oblivious to what you're doing. Even if you can get their attention, you don't know how reliable they are. So if we're getting smoked by cruisers, get behind cover. That doesn't mean sit behind cover doing nothing, but get behind cover while still being able to fire and shoot back at those cruisers. If you get them spotted, take the shots, right? They're causing you pain, consternation, everything else, a lot of stress. Go ahead and blast them. Take it out on them. Get them off the board. That's the only proper response. Complaining about their ability to kill you, well, every ship in this game by design can be killed, so that's not going to end. All right, so we got the destroyer kind of covered here. Now, in my mind, and I keep indicating those guys, I would really love the Hipper or the Plymouth to maybe even trade their cruiser for that destroyer, right? He's basically the last main threat to the base. We got a lot of health. We got a couple super heals left. I'm not worried about being able to fight off a Tirpitz or an Amalfi or an Edinburgh or anything else. It's just the destroyer who's been periodically lobbing torpedo sets at us, and if he kills us and these other guys down here, there's nobody going to be able to come back and get the base. Edinburgh, we're keeping an eye on him here. Finally comes around with a dev strike, and he gone there with a vicious shot, and down he goes. So I was watching him go through that gap. I'm like, there's no way he's going to keep going here. I'm sure he's trying to slam on the brakes. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. British light cruisers are very hard to stop on a dime. They keep going a lot longer than you'd like them to generally. Hoping the Ochakhov's going to come right through this gap right there. All right, now it's tough to tell on the map at the moment. Did he beach? Did he go south? Did he go north? Looks like he turned hard, went north, so we don't have a shot on him anymore, unfortunately. But we are very centrally located in this map, which is one of the goals usually for battleships as the match progresses. But this map, the center there's not a lot of firing lanes out of it, so it's not as strong of a position as it is in a more open water map, but we still do have good map control. It's just limited in terms of firing angles. Tirpitz coming around here. I guess he's kind of chilling behind the island. We're trying to move forward. Ochakhov, I think, radaring us. Probably more, in fact, radaring the destroyer, but we are getting picked up on it. That's fine. But we do have a broadside shot on the Tirpitz if he backs up or if he goes forward. Should be able to get some nice strikes. Citadels at this range, not going to happen. British AP always a little crazy too with the fuse arming differences as well. But watch these aim points on this turrets. We're going to basically understand what we are working with here. And we're going to aim mid-ship. And every time we hit them, it's going to be as though we got a Citadel shot in terms of damage output. Nice shot there on the Hyate. Someone's got to shoot him. We go ahead and take the shot when we got it. And that took off about a third to half his health, somewhere in that range. And Turpets, we're just, okay, we got him pinned there. He can't really leave that island. Incoming torpedo strike here. Can we avoid this? Ooh, not looking good. Can we limit it to 1? Well, no. We take 2 shots there, and that's a major problem. This is what I'm talking about earlier. Okay, we got pressure around their base. We should be on the base. But if they manage to kill me, which is much more doable all of a sudden, well, now we got another cruiser or 2 to get through, and then their path to getting on the base unabated is going to be present. So you always got to be paying attention to capture the base. That's what I'm talking about there, though, was about a 15k shot, just a mid-ship shot there. I'm not trying to go for a waterline where it's just more heavily armored. Just go for the reliable shot in the middle. Boom. You know, this is against battleships, cruisers. You probably still want to shoot waterline, of course, but go for that reliable damage. The British battleship's great at it. You know, think Queen Elizabeth. Ships along those lines. Lion, Vanguard, anything like that. Just go for the reliable shots. Generally, Vanguard does have a little bit different fuses, so I'm not going to get too deep into that. But you can see here we're just basically pinning this guy back here, right? If he wants to do anything, fine, we'll punish him. We do need to be avoiding these torpedoes. And we're getting some return fire from the turrets. Torpedoes, oh god, because we got the damage control down for 20 seconds, and that's a vicious strike there. Looks like a coup de grace. Okay, we got 11 seconds till the guns are reloaded. Can we get one more shot off? Maybe, maybe not. But we will not be able to stop this flood before we go down. And in fact, there's no targets, so we do die, even though we got the guns briefly reloaded there. So you can see what I'm talking about there. We didn't do a lot of moving around, but I think if you were paying attention to it, we didn't fire on reload every single time. I don't know if I've ever done that. I seriously doubt it. But that's kind of an aspirational goal as a battleship. We want to be shooting as often as possible because you only get so many shots, right? If you have a 30-second reload, the match is 15 minutes. You got, what, 30 shots, right? At the most. You got 30 seconds to deploy. Now we're down to 29. And every time you don't fire and reload, that number creeps down even further. So to maximize your output throughout the game, you need to be in a position where you can be shooting when you got the chance to do so. That's a look at the Lion for you guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. Lots of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave them below. Love to hear from you, and we'll see y'all later. All right, peace.